Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellowshow. My name is Kyle. Tonight, it is December 14th. It's about 8 p.m. Central Time here. We're going over the Waiver Wire Report for Week 15. It's probably one of the more action-packed news days that I've seen in a while. Of course, all of the C-19 cases going around right now. There was a handful of people on the NFL today and yesterday, amongst all of the injuries that we've experienced over the last couple days. So I think at the start of the show here, I'm going to let people to get your questions in the chat room if you want them answered. But I'm just going to kind of read the news and try to cover as much of this as I can. At the top of the list here, I do have a headline: Austin Eckler trending towards playing. He got a limited practice in today after a DNP yesterday. Not really concerned about the Monday day off again. First day after a game, I expect not a lot of people to be able to practice. But Eckler today, big day, limited. That's good news here. Daniel Jones still not cleared for Sunday. It's probably going to be another Mike Glennon start. The Rodgers toe injury is supposed to not be a problem, so I hope that continues to be the case. Keenan Allen was, I guess, some of the bright news today is Keenan Allen was removed from the COVID list. He's on track to play Thursday Night Football. Darren Waller, they're going to play on Saturday. He did not practice today, and there was a handful of that Raiders-Browns game. There was a handful of issues on COVID side for the Browns there. Damian Harris limited to open the week. They play Saturday evening, so good start for his practice week. The Cardinals with James Conner. He had an ankle injury. He hurt it on the last play of that game where he caught that ball, but he's getting an MRI on his ankle. And then you have DeAndre Hopkins getting an MRI on his leg, and he actually got hurt at the very end of the game as well. So James Conner and DeAndre Hopkins, we'll see if those guys can go. Hopefully everything's okay. The Rams added Odell Beckham to the COVID list here amongst a handful of other players. The Rams are actually on lockdown right now. So all virtual meetings. I don't know how long that lasts for, but it's not looking good. Hopefully nobody else comes out of the Rams with the COVID list here. And then the Browns were the other team here that had to put a bunch of people on the COVID list, including Austin Hooper and Jarvis Landry. So I think we can expect both those guys to be out this week. And then let me get into some of the other random news here. Antonio Brown, they're kind of, I don't know who knows what they want to do with Antonio Brown at this point. But if you're holding on to Antonio Brown, it's fine. Otherwise, I just don't know if we're going to see him play again this season. Here's some Chargers updates. Jared Cook was limited today. You have Derwin James limited today. Mike Williams limited today, and Austin Eckler. So the Rams, or the Chargers, that is, looking pretty good here with all of their health and all their guys being at least at practice today. Mac Jones limited with a thumb injury. I'm not too concerned there. They did just have the bye last week, so he should be just fine. Again, there's Daniel Jones not cleared to practice quite yet. The Rodgers toe injury on Pat McAfee today, he said it's not going to be a problem, so I'm not too concerned there. There's Keenan Allen. Giovanni Bernard placed on the injury reserve list, so this just kind of nudges to me that if you wanted to roster the handcuff for Tampa Bay, it would be Ronald Jones. Might not be a bad idea to scoop Ronald Jones up. Foster Moreau limited today. Again, no Darren Waller. We'll see if he can get a practice on Wednesday or Thursday, but so far, no Darren Waller at practice. Tyler Higbee, he had a false positive. I think that was the other day here that kept him out of last night's game, but he was activated today. There's Damian Harris's news. There's the Hopkins and the James Conner news, as well as the Odell Beckham news. Let's move it over to the Chiefs game. The Chiefs play, again, the Chargers on Thursday Night Football here, and you're seeing Chris Jones put on the COVID list here, so not great for the Chiefs pass rush and the run defense there. And then here's a handful of Cleveland Browns news. Anthony Schwartz sidelined with a concussion. Kareem Hunt sidelined. He's going to be doubtful. They list him as week to week. I don't think we're going to see Kareem Hunt play, so it's going to be all up to Nick Chubb and D'Ernest Johnson. You have Austin Hooper here placed on the COVID list, Wyatt Teller, the stellar right guard, and then Jarvis Landry all put on the COVID list. So the Browns offense not looking so hot as Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle, Wyatt Teller, Drew Forbes, the guard, Tack McKinley, JoJo Natson, and Ross Travis all among the group for the Browns. Jason Peters, left tackle, suffered an ankle injury for the Bears. Let me see what else here. The Urban Meyer news is interesting. I hope he's out of here soon. Good news on Tony Pollard, though. Mike McCarthy says he's feeling a lot better about his availability for the upcoming game against the Giants. So maybe we get Tony Pollard back this week. And then here's probably the hot guy on the waiver wire list today. It's Rashad Penny. He deserves a shot to establish himself as the team's lead back. So I know in a lot of leagues, your waiver wire probably looks like this. This is a super flex waiver wire, so excuse the Mike Glennon, but it's like Gabriel Davis, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Rashad Penny. Like, these are some of the hot names as we get into our first week of the playoffs. So Gabe Davis, We think Emmanuel Sanders is going to be out in this game with a sprained knee. He ran a route on 80.6% of Josh Allen's Week 14 dropbacks against the Bucs. So Gabe Davis, if he's going to be on the field for 80% of the passing attempts, I like Gabe Davis as a pickup this week and maybe someone that we can hold on to for a few weeks as we get towards the fantasy championships here. Jimmy Garoppolo, Logan Thomas, it does reveal an ACL tear, so it looks like his season is ending on a sour note here. We're going to see Ricky Seals-Jones, and then this rookie here, I think he's a rookie, John Bates, both looking good here. I think both guys could be interesting tight ends off the waiver wire. And then we get to a bunch of notes from last night's game. So I'm not overly too concerned about recapping last night's game. But, man, it was a day full of headlines. Let me look at some of the practice reports from today. Cleveland did put out a bunch here. Again, we're expecting no Kareem Hunt in this one. We're also going to be probably without Jarvis Landry and Austin Hooper. So who did practice? Harrison Bryant practiced. And we know David Njoku is still on the COVID-19 list, so there's a chance Harrison Bryant gets to be a featured tight end this week. He's someone I'm going to monitor here. I'm expecting Njoku to come back at some point this week, but for right now, Harrison Bryant might be an interesting guy as he's the lone tight end practicing, and it's in some capacity here, so that's interesting. I think Las Vegas put out a practice report today too. No safety, Jonathan Abram. He's got an illness. And it looks like Trayvon Mullen with a toe, no practice. Denzel Perriman, linebacker, not practicing with an ankle injury. And then you have Darren Waller, who is questionable with that knee. So the Raiders pretty dinged up here. But for fantasy, the rest of the offense at least looks useful. Let's go look at Kansas City real quick. Again, Kansas City was overall pretty healthy here. Only one a personal day here for L'Jarius Sneed, but we do know that Chris Jones was placed on the COVID list. So we'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to be able to make it back for this one. And yeah, welcome to the show, Justin. We made the playoffs. And I'm just kind of going over some of the practice reports from today. It was a wild news day. The Chargers don't have their practice reports entered in here yet, but I thought I saw the Colts. The Colts put some in. Just a couple from the Colts, nothing really to note of for fantasy here. Let's go take a peek real quick at the New England Patriots. I think the big news for the Patriots was Damien Harris was practicing with that hamstring injury, so the bye week appeared to do him pretty good. I know a lot of people are probably looking at Ramondre Stevenson as a handcuff to stash, and I do like that. But for now, it looks like Harris is going to be on track to play. So before we get into the injury report, let's actually open it up and kind of just go over some of these injuries to monitor, because there is a ton of injuries right now, week 15 of the NFL season. Lamar Jackson, I'm going to have to change this. It looks like he's going to play. He was listed as questionable. Big practice report tomorrow, I think, for the rest of the NFL on Wednesday. So I'm assuming Lamar Jackson looks good to go. If you want to hedge your bet, you can pick up Tyler Huntley and just hold on to him if you have the roster spot. Josh Allen's going to be probable with that ankle or with the foot injury. Jalen Hurts probable with the ankle coming off the bye. And then Daniel Jones. I don't know if we see Daniel Jones the rest of the season. The toilet. I guess the season's kind of swirling down the toilet at this point. And then Taylor Heineke. Big day for him tomorrow, I think, with the first day of practice. We'll see if he can get a limited in, so I have them as questionable. And then we get to some of these running backs here. Austin Eckler on track to play with that ankle. He got a limited practice in today. Big day tomorrow for Elijah Mitchell. We'll see if he's going to practice. DeAndre Swift probably not going to play this weekend. I would expect him to be doubtful. And then as of now, Damien Harris, I'm going to probably list him more probable than questionable. Miles Sanders probably going to play. Curious to see Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard's one of the sneakier ads, I think, in fantasy right now. Because we do know that Miles Sanders he's been dinged up with this ankle injury, and over the last month or so, when they wanted to run the ball, they ran it with Jordan Howard. You see the amount of carries, 12, 17, 12, 10. He's got 3 touchdowns in those 2 games there, and someone that I'm interested in probably holding on to. So Jordan Howard's a guy that I'm probably going to add in a couple leagues just in case. The schedule is pretty decent down the stretch here. They're going to get Washington, the Giants, and Washington. So I'm somewhat curious there. Washington is a tougher team to run against, but I think Jordan Howard could rack up some volume. Kareem Hunt, again, doubtful. You got Phillip Lindsay, who cares? Miami's entire backfield has COVID right now. I think I'm just going to stay away from picking up anybody on the Dolphins for a back. And then Tony Pollard, we'll see if he can get any practice in this week, but I'm going to list him as questionable. Not sure what's up with J.D. McKissic. He's missed the last 2 games now. Slightly worried about that concussion. We'll see if he can get practicing this week here. Rex Burkhead's going to be doubtful. So one of my favorite waiver wire pickups this week is if you needed to spot start somebody at the running back position, Royce Freeman might be the lone healthy back here. he had 11 carries for 15 yards, but he did catch six 6 passes for 51 yards. So in a PPR day, he did have a pretty nice volume here. Royce Freeman's a guy that I want to put on my list, as well as Jordan Howard. Tevin Coleman probably going to come back with that concussion. And then we see Giovanni Bernard put on the reserve list today. We have just a few receivers. The receivers are out overall pretty healthy. We'll see if Adam Thielen can go with a couple practices this week. He's listed as questionable. Terry McLaurin, they did express optimistic, vibes that he could play this weekend. So we'll see if he can get limited Thursday at the latest there. DJ Moore, questionable with a hamstring. We'll see. They didn't really put out too much information on this, but we're watching DJ Moore's practice reports. I'm going to assume Kadarius Toney's out. I think I saw him on the COVID list. I'm going to assume Emmanuel Sanders is not playing this week, so I like Gabe Davis quite a bit, and then Elijah Moore officially on IR. And then the tight ends, just the main ones at the top. Darren Waller, questionable this week. We'll have to watch his report tomorrow. Hawkinson, we'll see about him as well. Again, with the Lions season, I don't know if they're going to force him to come back quicker than he needs to. We'll see more about that hand, and then just a couple other tight ends here. So we'll get into. There's a huge list of COVID-19 players, but let's look into some of these QBs. What's going on, Christian? Thanks for hanging out, my man. Do you think Allen Lazard is taking the wide receiver 2 role? So it's interesting. I think looking at that Packer game, it's kind of split down the middle. Let me actually pull up the reports here. So in terms of snap counts for this game, you see Allen Lazard take 82% of the snaps in this game, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling did play 66%. So at the moment right now, yes, it does look like Allen Lazard's going to be the guy that's on the field more. They like him for his blocking. So when he's on the field, he's an asset to both the run and the pass. And then just in terms of targets in this latest game here, he saw 7 targets. MVS did get 5 targets, but Allen Lazard was the guy who was the most productive one of the evening. And in a really soft matchup against the Ravens' banged up secondary and defense as a whole, I think Lazard and even MVS present us some interesting wide receiver threes. And yeah, it was a good game, a lot of fun. The weather was perfect for a December game. Couldn't have asked for a better evening. And then, is Darnell Mooney worth holding? I mean, if you have to ask me, would I rather have Darnell Mooney or Allen Lazard? I might go with Allen Lazard. I'm probably going to take Gabriel Davis over Darnell Mooney. I might even want Amon-Ra St. Brown. Some of these guys that it's more of what have you done for me lately kind of thing. I don't see the Bears offense doing much going forward, and I'm probably not going to whip out Darnell Mooney in my lineup for a little bit here until we see something worth doing. So for me, I probably would let Darnell Mooney go for some of these more popular assets at the moment right now. So if you have that question, you can let me know who you'd be picking him up for. But for quarterbacks this week, if you guys are streaming quarterbacks, I think the number one streamer is probably Tua Tagovailoa at home against the Jets. He's only 38% rostered. I'm fine with Taysom Hill. Tampa Bay does allow quarterback points here. Let me show you. Tampa Bay up here at number 5, allowing the 5th most quarterback points, about 19 per game. They did allow Josh Allen to run for 100 yards and a touchdown last weekend. So don't be afraid to use Taysom Hill. I think he's my second preferred streamer. I do think 2 is the safest. And then I'm probably going to remove the bold from Baker. But down here, some interesting guys. Teddy Bridgewater maybe against Cincinnati. I'm pretty interested in Jimmy Garoppolo too against Atlanta. So if you need quarterback streaming help, Taysom, Tua, those would be my preferred guys. I'm sure one or both of them are picked up in your league already, though. So if you have to panic and start Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that's the lowest I would like to go. Let's go look at running backs here. How is Saquon looking this week in fantasy? Saquon's interesting. The Giants are going to be playing. Who did the Giants play this week? I can't remember. Mike Glennon plays Dallas. I mean, in terms of fantasy, Dallas is one of the better teams against the running back. They've allowed about 20 PPR points per game to the running back position. And the way that they're using Devonta Booker right now, I would maybe think that's good for 12 to 13 Saquon Barkley points minimum. So I just think with the involvement in the passing game, Mike Glennon appeared to like dumping it off a lot to Saquon Barkley. So let's actually look at those numbers from last week, because this might be a pretty similar score that we're looking at here. So in terms of Saquon Barkley, where are you? So he got all 3 of his targets and he gets the touchdown. So if you remove the touchdown, that's kind of what your floor is looking at. So maybe 6 points out of the receiving production and 6 points out of the rushing. So I think from a floor standpoint, you can still expect 10 to 12 points. He's more of a running back 2 for me. Awesome, fantastic, man. I'm glad that makes me so happy. That's why I love seeing that. I love helping. So I'm just thankful people watch and ask questions and we get results. So that's pretty cool. Taysom and Brady, who would you start? That one's hard because the eye test it says I should start Tom Brady, but the numbers Tampa Bay allows more points to the quarterback here. The New Orleans Saints, where are they? New Orleans Saints, they do allow about 18 points here. Tampa Bay allows 19. I'm probably just going to stick with Tom Brady because it feels safer. Even if I'm wrong, I think I can live with the process being Tom Brady. What is he? The number 2, number 1 quarterback so far for fantasy. I think I'm going to stick with Tom Brady and just continue to do that because the Saints can't really defend the wide receiver. They've been pretty generous to wide receivers this year. And looking back real quick, actually, Bucs Saints 2021. We actually saw these two teams play already this season. This was back on Halloween evening. Let's see here. Tom Brady comes in. Tom Brady threw 4 touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions. This was the game where Winston got hurt. Trevor Siemian came in and he was able to pull it off. But Tom Brady still threw for 375 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think probably can't guarantee 4 touchdowns, but I'm going to think 200 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns is his floor. So I'm going to stick with him. Chris Godwin's going to be a money start again. He's been on fire lately, so stick with Tom Brady. With the Dolphins RBs filled with COVID, do you like Gaskin versus the Jets? We got to see if Gaskin is on track to play yet. If Gaskin plays, I love him. That's a really good play. So hopefully he can clear COVID in time and get some practicing in. So if Gaskin's in, I think that's a really good spot for him. Let me show you the New York Jets. Clear cut, they are the worst team against the running back in all formats here by a good 5 or 6 points over the Seattle Seahawks. So it's a fantastic matchup for Miami backs against the Jets. But let's look at these running backs on the list here. It's slim pickings. I think the most obvious name is probably Rashad Penny on a lot of people's waiver wires. If you need someone to plug in and start, I think it's Rashad Penny. The low end, though, is going to be Royce Freeman. Again, Rex Burkhead is hurt. This was Royce Freeman's box score when he came in, and they're playing Jacksonville, so that makes it a little bit more easier to start him. Now, the carries, 11, that's a good number. 15 yards is not a great number, but if he gets 11 carries against Jacksonville, I'm probably feeling pretty good about that for at least some production, maybe a rushing touchdown. But our guy Davis Mills really pummeled Royce Freeman with some targets. So I'm interested there. If you need spot starts at running back, it's Penny or Royce Freeman. And then if you're feeling really dirty, it's probably Craig Reynolds against Arizona. But let me know if you guys have questions on any of these guys up here. I do think if someone cut Michael Carter, there's a chance he comes back this week. And then Devin Singletary would be kind of like that waiver wire unicorn, where if he's still out there, I would try and get him because he looks like he's finally entrenched as the top trusted back. And then here's just a huge list of handcuffs. I like holding on to all these guys. I did want to shout out one more time. Jordan Howard, I think, is worth holding on to. Maybe not to start this week, but I think he's definitely worth a hold going forward for the next 3 weeks. And then we just have a huge list of handcuffs. I'm very interested in Samaje Perine with Joe Mixon. He's looked good when he's had his touches. But then just if you guys need any handcuff questions, I think it's a good idea to fill your end of your bench with some of these backup running backs. Do you like Gibson versus the Eagles with the recent struggles and JD coming back? So Gibson versus the Eagles, it's on paper, it's a good matchup. The Eagles are ranking 10th. They give up the 10th most PPR points to the running back, about 25. They allow a ton of receptions. So this is making me think this is going to be a good JD McKissic game. The Eagles linebackers are some of the worst linebacking core in the league. So I would think JD McKissic has a pretty good chance to have a good game. But I think I'm going to continue to roll with Gibson. I've been waiting to see if there's been any talk about Gibson this week with the coaching staff or in any interviews or press conferences. But I think for me, every time Gibson has fumbled, he's responded well. I think it's a good matchup. It's a divisional matchup. They can keep up with the Eagles here, and just the banged up nature of Taylor Heineke. I'm probably going to roll with Gibson as a running back too. He has a good chance to get a touchdown. Eagles have allowed 9 rushing touchdowns this season. They've allowed a lot of rushing yards. But those receiving numbers, I hope we get Gibson involved. So even with JD back, I still think I feel good about Gibson and just AJ Dillon's low point performance. Worry you? It doesn't. Dillon played well despite not scoring a touchdown. I know a lot of people are like, the role reversed from what we've been used to. Aaron Jones got the touchdowns this time, but I would imagine AJ Dillon has a high floor. And actually, let me show you here, because this was kind of interesting to me in terms of snap counts. Where are we? In terms of snap counts, AJ Dillon outsnapped Aaron Jones. He had 54% of the snaps to 45% for Aaron Jones. So that's 35 total plays to Aaron Jones's 29. And in terms of production, Aaron Jones, he did get the touchdowns, but look at the carries. AJ Dillon, 15 to Aaron Jones's 5. No receptions. I think that's going to change here. So if you just factor in the floor of 7 to 10, PPR points with a really good option for a touchdown here, I think I'm still feeling pretty good about AJ Dillon. Is Javonte worth a start with Melvin Gordon getting the bulk seemingly? Let's look at this game as well. So this was a game against Detroit. They were never really threatened in this one. They were able to just run the ball a ton. So I think that's why we saw Melvin Gordon rack up the touches. The snap share was basically 50-50. We were hoping it would be more Javonte in this one. But Melvin, he led the team in carries with 24 to Javonte's 15. So I don't love that number here. But the thing I do like is if they're targeting a back, it's still Javonte Williams. So you take away both of his touchdowns, and he's still going to get 7.3 from here. Add in 2, he still has a 10-point floor in PPR league. So I'm still feeling pretty good about Javonte. And then who do the Broncos play this week? Denver's going to get Cincinnati. We just saw Cincinnati allow a bunch of points to running backs not too long ago. So it's a good matchup for Javonte. And I think our guy Melvin's probably going to have a good game as well. Any update on Thielen? I haven't heard of anything. I think so. Wednesday is going to be the most important day for a lot of players. Wednesday is that first day where they can get like a real practice report in. I think they play Sunday night. So we'll see. We'll see more info tomorrow on Thielen and the rest of the Vikings. Good evening, Porsche 23. Hope you're having a good one, man. Hope you made all the playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. Any update on Daniel Jones? They said he's not been cleared yet. I would be shocked if they put Daniel Jones back out on the field in 2021. They might just let Mike Glennon kind of take the lumps and bruises and kind of just start to gear up for next year and start to figure out what they're going to do with this coaching staff and everything. So Daniel Jones, probably not expecting to see him this week and maybe not the rest of 2021. And yeah, I hope everyone made the playoffs. Ravens defense right now is not great. The secondary is vulnerable. Baker Mayfield kind of had his way with some deep shots. I think it's going to be very easy for me to see the Packers rolling into Baltimore, putting up a quick 30 points and just kind of coasting. And we'll see. Gimpy Lamar. Lamar has not been great. He's been getting a lot of interceptions lately. And the Packers defense has been very opportunistic with turnovers and sacks and fumbles and interceptions right now. So it's feeling pretty good for the Packers right now, who are the current number 1 seed. They have the opportunity to run the table. So it's looking good for Packer fans. I did want to cover some fantasy wide receivers real quick. Now, I'm assuming most of the guys at the top of the charts are going to be owned, so I'm going to kind of go down here. I think the pickup of the week is probably Gabriel Davis against Carolina. The Panthers defense, it's good on paper, but it doesn't really scare us for fantasy. The Panthers, they do rank down here, but again, the high-flying Buffalo Bills passing attack at home. No Emmanuel Sanders. I do think Gabe Davis is worth a look here and probably a guy you want to roster the rest of the season. With all of the injuries to the COVID-19 stuff for the Cleveland Browns, Donovan Peoples-Jones looks like a guy that could be the team's leading target man this week here. I do like Allen Lazard as well. So if you need some of these bottom guys, I do think all 3 of these players need to be rostered, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. He just had a lot of targets and receptions last week. I still think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is worth holding on to. So some of these guys down here at the bottom of the list, I'm very interested in. And at the top of the list, I want Devontae Parker on my team. I really want Devontae Parker on my team. Going up against the Jets, I think he's a top 30 wide receiver, probably going to be a guy that I plug into a lot of my DraftKings lineups as well. So Parker, he's at the top of the list, but definitely some interest down here at the bottom. There's a hope that Jair comes back this week. I think tomorrow we want to see him get at least a limited practice in. It's weird. They've really been quiet with Jair all week. or I guess all season with his return of, from the shoulder. But for me, it's 50-50. I can't really say. I would like to see him back, but maybe it's a good thing if we just let him sit one more week and let him just get practicing and get his legs underneath him and try to get eased back in. But we'll see. We'll know more tomorrow. I think Wednesday is going to be the better day for seeing about that. And yeah, Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is the guy. What's up, Aiden? Having a good evening? Hope you're doing well. Sanders over Davis. Sanders. You talking Miles Sanders, or is that Emmanuel Sanders? Miles or Emmanuel? And I did want to shout out real quick in the free league. Congrats to everyone that made the playoffs. I did not make the playoffs. I made one of the worst trades with my brother one weekend when he was here. But Justin got the first round bye. DC Olivia's paw here. I believe that's Porsche 23. I believe that's him. But congrats to everybody here that made the playoffs. I want to double check that real quick. Return of the DAC. That's James Porsche. Yep. I don't think Sanders plays in this one. Let me double check that real quick. Sanders is listed as week to week at the moment right now. So Sanders, here is the quote. He suffered a knee sprain and is most likely out for week 15 against the Panthers. So for this week, I'm feeling pretty good about Gabe Davis. Even Sean McDermott took a moment to praise Gabe Davis after saying that Sanders isn't expected to play. So more opportunity for Gabriel Davis. He's been hot, playing good football the last few games here. And now that with all of the opportunity above him, it's looking like he could be a wide receiver 3 for us on Sunday against Carolina. So last 2 games, he's got back-to-back touchdowns. This 8 targets, you're probably not going to see 8 targets for Gabe Davis in a game. I mean, they were playing keep up against Tampa Bay, but maybe somewhere 4 or 5 targets, a good chance at a touchdown here. Again, the numbers are starting to trickle up for Gabe Davis, so I like what I'm seeing there. Let me see. Does Cordaro Patterson concern you? I don't think he played really throughout the fourth quarter for some reason. They kind of just, with Cordaro, he ended up racking 16 carries up. I think they just got to a point where they're like, I think we can lean on some other players here. They kind of had that. They were up like 2 scores in the fourth quarter here, so not really too concerned. I think in a closer game, you would see more Cordaro Patterson on the field. So he still racked up a bunch of touches. I'm fine with it. Maybe they were just kind of easing him and just they didn't really feel threatened by the Panthers. And yeah, the DeAndre Swift. I don't know if we see Swift anymore the rest of the season, to be honest with you. The Lions are kind of just on coast. And yeah, it's like I was listening to that game on the radio too as I was driving home, but a lot of Mike Davis. Mike Davis has been kind of taking it easy the last month or so, so maybe he's got some juice left in him, and they're just going to continue to ride him. But either way, for Cordaro Patterson, he's still getting his double-digit PPR points. I think I'm okay with him saving himself, I guess. I hope you got all you needed out of him last week, but I feel good about Cordaro this week going up against the 49ers. And San Fran, they're fine against running backs here. They do allow about 24 PPR points, so we'll see. I do feel pretty good about Cordaro Patterson, at least right now, though. Yep. And that's the thing. I think it's Mike kind of just still being fresh this late in the season. They gave Quandre Allison a chance, but he fumbled, so I don't know if they're going to continue to do that. But as far as Cordero goes, I'm not too concerned. Yeah, I don't understand the lack of attention in the passing game for Debo. Like I get it. Like let's get him some carries, but they shouldn't just completely remove him from the passing game plan. So I would like to see kind of a refocus on getting him, 5-6 catches per game and letting him do some dirty work in the open field. Let me know if you guys have tight end questions this week. The tight end situation is really ugly. If you don't have one of these top guys, I think you're in big trouble this week. I think Hunter Henry might be one of the better plays against Indianapolis. We can maybe take a chance at one of these Washington football teamers against Philly. Philly does allow the most tight end points here. 88 catches on the year. That's the most. 874 yards on the year. That's the most. And 11 tight end touchdowns. So attacking the Eagles against tight end is never a bad idea. And yeah, I think that's good news for Brandon Ayuk. He's been one of the more consistent players for the 49ers lately, but really, I think it all comes off George Kittle. George Kittle really opens things up for the rest of this offense. And yeah, the last month and a half or so, I think we're starting Brandon Ayuk at all times at this point. He saw a season high 11 targets in this last game. So he's feeling pretty good here. Touchdowns are flowing, targets are flowing. Brandon Ayuk probably a top wide receiver 3 for us the rest of the way. And is Robbie Anderson. So Robbie Anderson is interesting because I think PJ Walker really likes to target him. I think that's where most of his damage came from. And yeah, that was a 5-yard touchdown from PJ Walker. The 12 targets, it's hard to trust. I don't know if I'm going to say to start him against Buffalo. I mean, this is a tough schedule here: Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans. So he's maybe worth holding on to. If you're not going to use him, maybe you let him go. Maybe let someone else try to deal with him. But I think he's worth holding on to for at least one more week and seeing what happens. But only if you plan on potentially needing him. Otherwise, I would probably move on. But for me, I'd probably rather own someone like Gabriel Davis at this point. I'd rather attach myself to a better offense and kind of go from there. And then I guess if we just touched on defenses real quick, I mean, some of the best defenses to play this week. Actually, let's look at the NFL schedule week 15. So some of my favorite defenses to play this week probably include Buffalo's, of course, one of the top defenses. I think they're going to be high owned. I do think Arizona's probably a defense you want to play. Miami Dolphins, that one probably seems to be the most doable. They're only 43.8% rostered right now, playing the Jets at home. I do like the Dolphins as a streamer. Dallas, assuming a lot of people own Dallas, so that's probably out. Washington, Philadelphia, that one's kind of interesting. I do think with how banged up Washington is, they put a bunch of guys on the C19 list as well. Maybe Philadelphia coming off a bye at home, maybe that one makes sense. If you're feeling risky, I don't mind Houston here. They have been playing better. They've been holding defense or other teams to some lower points here. So for me, Miami makes the most sense. Cincinnati, Denver, I don't know if I trust either one. Atlanta, San Francisco, don't know if I trust either one. Maybe Green Bay, if you're feeling kind of ballsy there. Tampa Bay is a good play. And then maybe Minnesota is a good play. So we'll see. We'll see here. I'm just excited, man. It's the first round of the playoffs. I think I will be doing a live stream tomorrow evening. So if you guys want to come get some questions, I will go over the practice reports and any of the news from the day and potentially just answer some questions from you guys. But if you guys don't mind, I'm going to get out of here for the evening. Good luck with your waiver wires. You guys can always message me on Twitter. You can comment the video, find us on TikTok. Got plenty of ways to be reached with questions. So good luck with your waiver wires. Congrats on making the playoffs if you're here. And thank you so much for your time. We'll see you guys later. Peace.